What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole. Across from me this week is Dezrah.
And across from me is Brian Paul.
Oh, hey there.
Hey.
So, for the last couple weeks, we had kind of been talking about the games that people buy no matter what.
Right.
And when I started making my list, I was like, oh, I buy Batman games no matter what.
Okay.
And that's sort of how this all came about.
Right.
I love Batman. It's been my favorite comic book hero. Oh, yes.
Isn't that
I didn't
nice?
even realize.
Woo.
Fantastic. Well done. I was looking through my shirts, and the best Batman shirt I have, I've worn for the last 2 weeks in a row. My Arkham Asylum.
That's a pretty good shirt.
Yeah. So here I am, just the Dark Knight.
That's right. That's probably more accurate. That's what Batman wears, right? Well, actually, we'll get into that.
Like nipples?
Well, yes, Mr. Schumacher, thank you for adding bat nipples to the canon.
Pretty awesome stuff. But you know, there's a lot of Batman games. We can't talk about them all. That would be absolutely ridiculous.
That would be a separate podcast.
It would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be all night. It would be, I mean, we could probably do like
series.
30, 40 episode podcast just on Batman games.
Maybe we'll do that. If this is
coming
successful.
this December. Without Parole, Batman.
Batman Without Parole. So before we jump in and talk about the ones that we really wanted to focus on, there were a couple kind of honorable mentions.
Okay.
I wanted to throw out there. Ones that I wish we had time to talk about, but we don't. Now, my favorite, the reason I think I like Batman so much is because of the animated series.
Yes.
Right? The animated series on Fox was probably the greatest cartoon ever made, in my humble opinion.
Definitely one of the best Batmans ever made. No question.
Kevin Conroy, amazing voice talent. Mark Hamill as the Joker, right? And it was the perfect cast, and it was the amazing animation. It was really dark, and like they didn't treat kids like kids,
right? Which
was great.
And not only that, Mark Hamill was a fantastic Joker. It was pointed out to me recently that the word Arkham is actually embedded in his name. M-A-R-K. A-R-K, Hamill, H-A-M, Arkham.
Arkham Asylum.
Yeah. And he spent more time as the voice of the Joker than he ever did as Luke.
By far, absolutely. But the reason I bring that up is because the honorable mentions I want to throw out there are for the Adventures of Batman and Robin, which is what the animated series eventually became.
Right.
There were two games on the 16-bit systems, which were both phenomenal, but both totally different from each other.
Okay.
There was the Super Nintendo version, which was like a 2D side-scrolling brawler, which was totally in the animated series aesthetic.
Yep.
It was really well animated. There were all these different episodes, and it was just fantastically done, even if there was quite a bit of slowdown. And it was made by Konami, so at the time, Konami was at the height of their game.
Right.
So total quality there. But even more impressive was the other Adventures of Batman and Robin on Sega Genesis, and that was by Sega themselves.
Oh, okay.
And like you would have thought you were playing Gunstar Heroes or Contra Hardcore, because they pushed the limits of the system in all these different directions. Like there was scaling and rotation and all these things that you didn't think the Genesis was capable of.
Right.
And I mean, this was sort of near the end of the 16-bit life cycle. I mean, they really pushed this system to its limit. Amazing game.
Now, how did it do with catching like the art style and the kind of the feel of it?
Not quite as well.
Okay.
Everything looked a little bit more shiny,
Right.
but it all moved. Unlike the Super Nintendo version, which moved a little bit on the slower side, a slow-paced, like methodical brawler.
Yeah.
This was like almost like a frantic shooter. So I was okay with it. The characters smaller on the smaller side, but moved around the screen much faster.
Okay.
It was very frantic, but it was amazing. I wrote down it plays like a Treasure game because I would have thought Treasure made it right on the heels of Gunstar Heroes.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any honorable mentions before we jump right in?
Not really honorable mentions. I've got some, something I think I want to put more towards the end than the beginning.
I hope they're dishonorable mentions.
We'll see.
All right. Well, we want to take us away with a Batman game.
Sure. This is the game. Now, I'm not as I do love Batman, the character, the comics. Let's say 70% of the movies. But I'm not as obsessive with the Batman games as you are. But the second you said Batman, the first Batman game I thought of was the NES Batman game.
By Sunsoft.
Yes. It came out in 1990. So that was 8 months after the movie had finished its run in the theaters, about 4 months after the VHS came out.
Wow.
And this is something like people, this younger generation kids today, like The Avengers is huge. The X-Men movies are big.
Yeah.
There's nothing compared to how big this Batman movie was.
Oh God, huge.
Yeah, when the '89 Batman, the original Tim Burton Batman movie came out, I mean, it was not possible to be a citizen of the world and not know this movie was here. I mean, it was plastered everywhere, and it was really the first superhero movie to kind of live up to that kind of hype too. It was critical success, financial success. I mean, everything had a Batman logo slapped on it, and if anything had a Batman logo slapped on it, it sold. It was a license to print money for like a year there. So it'd be pretty clear to expect that the movie tie-in game would be terrible. Because,
true.
In general, movie tie-in games are universally awful.
Yep.
And this was, like I said, a time when people were slapping the Batman logo on anything they could to sell it.
Right. Licensed games have gotten better over the years. But back in that day, I mean, a Total Recall is infamous for being just total garbage.
Yeah. And this is in the same time frame, too. But this is actually a fantastic game.
Yes.
It is, really, really difficult. It's not, Battletoads, I want to kill someone difficult. It's just got that edge of, I can see what I need to do, and it's possible for me to do, and it's really hard to do, but I can get there.
Right, because Battletoads is unfair difficult.
Yeah, Battletoads is just, that's another episode on its own. It's got a lot of feel to games like Contra. Ninja Gaiden, the original there. Batman moves a lot like your character does. He kind of does the whole wall jumping thing.
Yeah, and definitely a technique it takes a little bit to master.
Yeah, the controls are a little, like, there's a little bit of a delay between when you hit the button and when he actually reacts, but not in a bad way. Basically, like, you see your character kind of kneel down and get ready to take the big jump. Yeah. So once you've learned that timing, it's actually the controls are incredibly responsive. The other thing this is actually something I learned in my research for the episode. It always kind of bugged me that if you play through the game, it really has nothing to do with the movie. Even though the logo is there, the music is there, some of the cutscenes use scenes from the movie and lines from the movie. Yeah. If you actually pay attention to what you're doing in the game, really nothing connected to the movie.
This is true.
It turns out, there's a reason. There's multiple reasons. This is something I couldn't find a definitive answer on, but Sunsoft was either A, developing an independent Batman game before the movie came out, and then crammed it into the Batman license. B, were developing this game in tandem with the shooting of the film, so they didn't have a final script. Or C, were just really bad at making games.
Well, I mean, I think I'm gonna discount C immediately.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
The game was amazing.
The game was amazing, and it turns out there is a prototype version of the game out there. There are some ROMs that you can find.
Okay.
Do your own due diligence on that. But that shows the original game with cutscenes that make sense to the plot of the game you're playing.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Where the plot, the Joker is still kind of, in charge, and it's about a gas attack on Gotham, but the villains are different, and there is no, and here's the interesting thing, your boss battle with the Joker, there isn't one. You basically you beat the final boss, you see the Joker once, and you kind of like walk up to him and punch him, and that's the end. The version that was released, you do still have that final boss battle, and then there's a battle with the actual Joker, who for some reason has lightning powers.
Yeah, why not?
Because why not?
Because video games.
Because video games. And here's the kicker, something that my memory completely forgot. This is one of the only Batman games where Batman just straight up kills a guy. The end of this game, Batman grabs the Joker, just like we see, kind of in the finale of the movie. Yeah. There's the big final fight. Yep. Well, in the movie, there's this whole thing where he gets, they're hanging out the edge of the building, and, did he actually kill the Joker, or was it kind of the Joker's whatever? No, Batman just grabs him by the lapels, pushes him off the side of the building.
Excellent.
So, yeah, but, yeah, overall, fantastic game. Probably one of the best movie licensed games of all time. I would put it in my at least top 10 of NES games.
That's probably pretty fair.
Yeah, and so I think, as far as side scrollers go, it's holds up to today.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely check it out. It is a bit strange that you bring up Batman killing people, because I think most games, they tried to, who knows what happens to a guy after you beat him up and he falls down.
Right.
Maybe he'll spend the rest of his life in a hospital. But we just kind of assume that Batman didn't kill him. He's not taking a gun out and shooting him, but he's beating the crap out of him.
That's kind of an important line that Batman supposedly doesn't cross.
Now, I'm not bringing this game up to talk about it at length, but I'm going to show it for just a second here. God, I hate you, future Brian. Or I hate you, past Brian, at this point. The Game Boy version of this Batman game.
Yes.
Batman just runs around
With a gun.
With a gun.
Yeah.
Just shooting people.
Yes.
That's all he does. I don't know how they get away with that.
Yeah, no, and there's, I mean, in the NES version too, it's arguable. I mean, he is using like basically a spear gun at one point, so it's hard to say that wasn't a few lethal hits there. There's
still video games. You still got to work with what you got, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the 8-bit era. I don't know if just a straight up brawler would have worked, although there were plenty of straight up brawlers.
That's true.
They didn't get big till the 16-bit era, though. However, instead of going forward in time to the 16-bit era, what do you see out there?
The 16-bit era.
Oh, no, we're going to go back here.
Oh, hello.
To pre-NES era. Now, this might not be pre-NES, but this is certainly pre-Batman movie game. At a certain point, let's put it this way. At a certain point, Ocean, publisher Ocean, they got the rights to Batman, at least for the computers, for home computers. And they made 3 Batman games. One of them was in 1986. It was just called Batman. And it was an isometric game. I mean, home computers at the time, like the Amstrad and the Z. Goddamn, people are going to kill me for this. The Spectrum, the something Spectrum. Shit, I'm gonna move on.
The home computer.
Yeah, exactly. They were famous for having a ton of these isometric games.
Right.
Early Rare games like Night Lore. That was a big one. Solstice on the NES, even. These games are everywhere, and there was one that was totally indifferential, and I'm really not doing well with the words
okay.
there. This game, the Batman game that Ocean put out, that was isometric, looked just like all of those games. Like, other than the main character looking like a kid running around in a Batman costume, you wouldn't even know that it was a Batman game. They also did a Batman the movie game, which was nothing like the game you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Was nothing like the Game Boy version I'm talking about. Yeah. It was almost like this stilted 2D Rolling Thunder game. It was like Batman's too tall and like walks too slow and very stilted.
Yeah.
But they did manage to come out with one very unique game of these 3, and it was called Batman the Caped Crusader. And this actually happened in 1988. Supposedly, it was based on the TV series.
The 1967.
Yeah, like Adam West, Burt.
Okay, Burt Ward.
Ward, thank you. That's what we keep you here for.
I'll cut you slack on not knowing the computer, but not knowing Burt Ward is unforgivable.
Yeah, it's all right. Oh, thank you. I apologize to myself and everybody watching. This game originally came on a cassette tape, as a lot of computer games did at the time. And there were 2 different Batman adventures. One was on one side of the tape, and one was on the other side of the tape.
Because you could do that then.
I want to say the Joker and the Penguin were the 2 different villains in each adventure. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it wasn't really a beat 'em up. It wasn't really an action game. It was kind of an adventure game. I'm going to give it a little bit of leeway and call it that.
All right. It's
generous. What would happen is you start off in the Batcave, and you're kind of in this comic book panel. And you'd walk to one side or another, and that panel would go dark, and another panel would pop up in front of it. Yeah, you see it back here. And so you eventually have like all of these darkened comic book panels in the background, and as you go back to them, they relight back up, and Batman appears. And he kind of trudges along. I don't even think you can jump in this game. And what you do is you walk from panel to panel, so it's not even a side scroller. It's just static images.
Sure.
And you collect items. These items are just represented by the Batman logo, a little box on the ground. And as you're walking around, you hear this music playing in the background, and that is all you hear. There are no sound effects until you pick up an item. The Bat logo zooms in on the screen. You hear this sound effect.
Yeah.
You pick up the item. You put it in your inventory. Yes, you have an inventory. You can actually use items in different places to solve puzzles.
Okay.
And then when you exit that inventory screen, the music starts back up again from the beginning.
All right.
So it's actually this really long piece of music that you never really hear the end of, because every 5 minutes you're picking up an item and the music starts over again.
Okay.
So it's a little bit interesting in that regard, but it's also a game that I've never really seen the likes of again. I even looked up the developers, like their names, and they never really made anything cool ever again.
Interesting.
It was strange. As far as the visual style goes, it was actually looked really good for a Commodore 64 game. Or I put it on the Commodore 64. This might be something else. Who knows?
I'm just realizing now I have an amazing power. I can make Brian's life awful or wonderful based on the amount of times I look at the screen. Because every time I look at the screen, something's got to be there.
Every time you look at the screen from now on, it's going to be a big set of balls. I'm going to make your life miserable.
I don't have to
I'm making Des look at balls. Damn it. The visual style, though, with the different comic panels.
Yeah.
I had never seen that again until 7 years later, when Comic Zone came out on the Sega Genesis.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, I was thinking too. What was that? That side scroll. It was film strips, though. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember now.
Well, it's Photograph Boy. That was on the PC engine.
No, it's Beautiful Joe. Beautiful Joe.
Wow. Okay, you were way more current than I was.
Yeah. Well, I mean that same kind of thing where you're breaking the third wall by putting the characters in the frame, literally, of the not the genre, but the medium they're known for. Yeah.
I miss Beautiful Joe. Where did he go?
I don't know.
Capcom, right?
Yeah, it was Capcom.
That's kind of strange.
There was a sequel.
Bring him back. And there was Red Hot Rumble on the PSP. And there was, yep. Bring him back.
All right, next week, Beautiful Joe episode.
No, it'd be like 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Which is okay by me.
That was the thing.
Yeah. So that was actually... the funny thing is, it wasn't like I just discovered this game in my research.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing this as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And I was an adventure game kid. I was a graphic adventure, Lucasfilm game fan. So the small amount of adventuring this game had in it was enough to hook me. But it was too maze-like. Every time you exit a door, you have to figure out where to go next, and it was really difficult. I know I didn't get very far in it. I know I didn't beat it as a kid. But I watched someone play the entire game today.
Wow. Yeah,
it took about an hour and a half, I think, to beat both sides of the cassette tape.
Yeah, that is the downside with doing this kind of research. It's like, oh man, like with the NES game, like when we first were talking about that, I remember spending so many hours just timing and getting those, wall jumps just perfect in this one level. And then you go on YouTube and you find someone who's beat the whole game in half an hour without dying once.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Because as a kid, you think these games are like these big epics. Mm-hmm. I think Castlevania, the original one.
Yeah.
Years of people's lives have been devoted to trying to finish that game.
Yep.
And if you play it flawlessly from beginning to end, it's like a 22-minute game.
Yeah.
So don't waste your time, kids. Watch YouTube. You're next.
So another game, when we were talking about this, I was thinking more, okay, so what do I want out of a Batman game?
Yeah.
Like, what makes a good Batman game? What sure, there's going to be some combat. Batman is a fighter. Mm-hmm. But there's also going to be, in my opinion, using your brain a little bit. Batman, above all, is the world's greatest detective.
Nailed it.
There's also going to be, here's where things get a little squishy. I like a little bit of fun. He's dark. He's dark and brooding, but his rogues gallery, his villains are so colorful and so crazy that there's fun that can come out of that.
That's true.
So one game I thought of immediately that I spent, out of probably all the games we've talked about today, I spent the most time on is the original Lego Batman.
Excellent.
Lego Batman, for me, it was the Wii. I played it on mostly. Okay. It's one of the only Lego games I've ever been interested enough to 100%.
Nice.
And that's a crazy challenge for that one. Especially, it's got a lot of the same flaws as a lot of the early Lego games have. Some of the puzzles aren't necessarily clever so much as just really frustrating and arbitrary. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to play with the AI, because there's a lot of the puzzles require your character and another character to interact together and solve the puzzle together.
Oh.
If you're playing with the AI, occasionally the AI just forgets it's supposed to be standing where you want it to and just sort of wanders off. So definitely play with a partner.
Okay.
But it's a lot of fun. This was My Traveler's Tales came out in 2008. It was one of the first, it was the first Traveler's Tales Lego game that wasn't based on a previously existing movie.
Oh, really?
So there was a Lego Star Wars, there was Lego Indiana Jones series. They were all, had to follow the beats of the movie they were based on. This was a totally independent, totally original story.
Nice.
You got to start out playing as Batman and Robin. Eventually, as the game progressed, you got to play parts of the villains. So Riddler, Two-Face.
Really?
Yeah, yep.
Interesting.
And just like all the Lego games, different characters had different abilities, which allowed you to access different parts of the maps. You could get different suits and whatnot. This also introduced vehicle levels. So there were levels where you could get in the bat plane, you could get in the bat boat. Those, they were a little chaotic, a little crazy, just kind of shoot 'em up sort of things. But it was a nice change of pace from the regular kind of Lego game sort of stuff.
Your arch nemesis.
I know. I'm so bad
pop
at this.
filter.
Here's one thing I kind of like about it, though. It was, it was kind of like right before the Lego games started switching to more of an open world. Yeah. So now, like Lego Marvel Heroes or even Lego Batman 2 and 3, they fall in the sandbox kind of thing. There's just a world you can move around with, and storylines pop up as you go along. This was before that, so it was a little more on the rails.
Yep.
But I kind of like that in a Lego game, actually. The freedom, because the Lego games have this difficulty between they can't be so in-depth because they're kind of made for kids too.
Yep.
So the sandboxing is a little bit wasted, I think, because you can't get like super in-depth and nitty and gritty. But this early version, I think, is kind of like in that sweet spot. Also, my kids still play the Lego games, and I really don't like the new Lego games for one simple reason: dialogue.
Oh, they speak now.
They talk. Yeah, they talk now. They have characters. They have their own like funny jokes. I like the original ones where there's just like the funny little grunts and sort of things. It adds a little bit of funny. Yeah, it was charming. Adds a little bit of funny to it, but that's not taking over now. Like what is it? Lego Batman 3. My son's playing through right now. It's pretty much just a cartoon, and not a great one at that. Unfortunately, sorry guys. But I think this Lego Batman, the original one, falls in the sweet spot of they've kind of figured out the formula for the games they had been making. They hadn't quite made the leap to the next version of Lego games, which I'm kind of okay with.
It's kind of amazing that this game was any good at all, because it came out for the DS, PS2, PS3, PSP, Wii, and 360.
Yes.
Like that's a lot of. That's spreading your team really thin.
It really is, but the gameplay does suffer on some of the other versions, I think.
It does.
Yeah. If you're playing one of the smaller handheld versions, it's just a dumbed down version of the. Well, that happens all the time, anyways.
All the time, yeah.
But yeah, I think it was definitely one of my favorite titles for the Wii, which isn't really saying too much. Let's be honest.
But there's so many good titles for the Wii.
There are at least 4 or 5.
Just wait till next episode when we talk about the Wii at length. That's not our next episode, is it?
Sure, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
For all you people now.
Yeah, right. Write in. Tell us what you want us to talk about.
This episode may never air.
Oh, God. This might not be filming right now.
Oh, God.
Oh, the technical issues without parole games are never ending. What else did I want to talk about? I want to talk about... So, you said the new Lego Batman games were like kind of watching a cartoon.
Yes. Yeah, but not in a great way.
Right. In a great way, Batman Vengeance.
Batman Vengeance.
On the Xbox, GameCube, and PS2. Ooh. This was the first, the first, I want to say it's the first game. I talked about the 16-bit games that really captured the feel of the animated series.
Yeah.
But, I mean, basically in 2D. This was the first time that was... something that was capable of 3D graphics, captured the feel, the essence of that series, and did it well enough for me to talk about it right now.
Okay.
I'm going to put this out there right away before I even dive into it. The gameplay might be a bit lacking, right?
Okay.
There is fighting. There are gadgets to use. There are boss battles that you can go into in first person. There is, look at all this stuff. It's crazy. You can fly the Batplane. You can fly the the bat plane, you can ride the Batmobile. There's puzzle solving. There is so much to do in this game, and it's all divided up into different episodes. But there's this one overarching episode that it goes back to between episodes.
All right.
So it's telling different stories, but they're all connected into one. In the voice acting, they brought Kevin Conroy back, and they have Mark Hamill, and Harley Quinn plays a big role in it. And
wow.
all of your favorite people.
That's always. I mean, I got to say that's always a good sign for a Batman property.
Yeah.
If they're getting, Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and people like that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great game,
right? But
it does mean that the people who are making the game care about the history of the character and care about what the fans think, which is a huge, what's the opposite of a red flag? A green flag, I guess, to say, you know what, this might be okay.
Yeah. And it was very okay. Brian
Paul says Batman Vengeance is very okay.
Yeah, we'll edit that into all the backs of the boxes. It was extremely linear. The gameplay was limited because there was a story that was being told, and so what I did today, instead of going back and actually playing it, because I remember the gameplay was a little clunky.
Yeah.
But I still loved it because I love these characters so much, and they captured the feel of the world so well that I was able to look past it when it came out. I wasn't that young when it came out. It was probably like 18, 19, something like that. Nope. Even later than that.
Yeah.
21, 22.
Xbox, yeah.
Yep. So, I wasn't dumb. I wasn't a dumb kid who didn't know what a good game was. But I pushed through the gameplay segments because the game told a good story. Mm-hmm. And it did that well. So what I did today, instead of playing it, was I went on YouTube and I watched someone play it. And it was exactly how I remember it. It told a great story, but it really does funnel you down this one path. It gives you the illusion that there's many ways to do things, but really there's only one.
See, I don't think necessarily that linear, it's become very trendy to say it's linear gameplay. It's like a bad thing. Right. I don't think it is necessarily. If the story is good and it's told well, I mean, I still read novels. I haven't thrown away, books because, you know what? There's only one way to read this book. Yep. There's only one way that the author intended. I can't explore it the way I want to, so obviously this is crap. I mean, no. If the story is well told, then I don't mind it being linear. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yep, I'm certainly not complaining. I actually recommend checking this out. If not, by playing it, go watch a video. It's well worth the couple hours. Yep. It's like watching a movie. It's really good.
So before we wrap up, I do want to address the elephant in the room. We are talking about Batman games, and so far neither of us have mentioned the current Arkham series. We'll just call it the Arkham series. Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham, blah 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 blah. Here's the thing. As I've said a few times on this show, pretty, isn't it?
It is.
I'm a generation behind in general, so I've just started playing. I played Arkham Asylum. I'm just kind of working through Arkham City right now. And here's the thing, this should be like everything I was just talking about. They got Kevin Conroy. Yeah. They got Mark Hamill. They got Arlene. Oh gosh, Arlie. I can't remember your name. I'm sorry. The original voice actress who did Harley Quinn. She's in this as well.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I couldn't remember the name of a computer. How am I going to remember the name of a person?
No, voice actors are cool.
They are, for sure.
Just completely on tangent. If you have Netflix, go check out Hey, I Know That Voice. An amazing documentary about voice actors. Yep. It was put together by John DiMaggio, who does the voice of Bender and other amazing people. And just you get to see the faces of all these characters and realize how difficult of a job voice acting is. Yeah. It's insane the stuff these people need to do. You also get to see D. Bradley Baker make the Perry the Platypus sound, which is still, I don't know how a human being does that. Anyways, tangent aside, here's the problem with the Arkham games. They should be I talked about what makes a great Batman game. You're the world's greatest detective. Well, you got this detective vision. You're going through finding clues. Yeah. There's the stealth part of it. Okay. Batman isn't just the guy who runs to a group of people and just beats the crap out of everybody. Right. He finds his target. He wants to scare people, so he just sets things up to make sure he can sneak in and swoop in at just the right time. Yeah. But the combat system is universally recognized as one of the best gaming combat systems. At least the first one,
people liked it. That's for sure.
Won a bunch of the Game of the Year. Well, there we go.
Yep.
Here's the thing, though. It's there's kind of, if you follow like the history of the Batman, the character, in pop culture, it's definitely kind of swings from being like on one end the goofy, campy Batman of the 1967 Adam West, Burt Ward.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, guys, if you're still upset about that being goofy, it was supposed to be. It was a comedy. Okay, they were making fun of the genre. Get over it. Okay. I know, it hurts. But all right. But then they swing all the way to the other side. You've got Batman: The Killing Joke. You got Frank Miller's, The Dark Knight.
Yep.
And this one is a game I think is flown way over to the Batman of death and gritty and everything's dark and horrible.
Which is why I liked it.
Which is why a lot of people liked it.
Yeah.
But I think, going back to what I was saying before, you need a little bit of levity, because just like misery and pain and hate and all that for, how long does it take an average person to finish this game?
I mean at least 20, 30 hours, right?
20, 30 hours,
I'm
right.
guessing. It's been a long time since I played it, so don't quote me on that.
I'm absolutely not going to say that every game should be for everybody. That's clearly not true. I mean, that would be a horrible, horrible place. Yeah. But, when I've got this game that I really like, oh my gosh, this is a Batman game that I can't let my kids see.
True.
It's, again, I don't want to say that everyone has to be for everything, but there should be something, a little bit of hope,
This we'll call it a trilogy of games because we're ignoring Batman Arkham Origins. Rocksteady has chosen to ignore it, so shall we. I think Arkham Asylum was phenomenal. I thought it was really well done. It was a classic 3D Metroidvania game. Every time you got a new weapon, or item, gadget, you suddenly got access to new buildings and new areas, and it was kind of perfect in that regard. I have less thrilling things to say about Arkham City, and even fewer great things to say about Arkham Knight.
More of the same seems to be.
Yeah, Arkham Knight was like an open world Gotham game.
Yeah.
They just decided they didn't want to make it any fun to play.
Here's what the final thought I came up with after going through all this, hearing your stuff. Here's what I want. I think this would be the perfect Batman game.
Yeah.
I think we're in agreement. The Batman the Animated Series is probably the best, most definitive version of Batman. At least the one
I'd say so.
We like. It's got the noir feel to it. It's got a little bit of levity, a little bit of hope. At the end of the day, he is someone who's trying to do a good thing, and I think we kind of lose sight of that. It's all the darkness and the vengeance. No, he's trying to make the world a better place in his own way. But I think the animated series kind of captures that. Here's what I want. Developers who are listening, you came very close. You got Paul Dini to write the original Arkham Asylum.
Yep.
Paul Dini was one of the writers and creators of the Batman animated series.
Yes, he
now,
was.
Bruce Timm was the director and the showrunner for it. Get Bruce Timm, Paul Dini to work together on an open world sandbox Batman the Animated Series game.
I'm down. Sign me up.
We've got things like Cuphead coming out, which show us that you can do an animated, with modern programming, you can do 3D and all this gaming that looks like the original animation. And I think that would be a slam dunk.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Dishonorable mentions.
Okay.
There are some really bad Batman games out there. We're not going to talk about them all. I have a real difficult time with the animated. The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega CD, which is a driving game. You drive the Batman, drive the Batmobile around Gotham, and it's like basically Gotham City traffic simulator. It is awful.
Wow.
And that's all it is. It's driving from location to location. That's all you do. But then you do get to watch cutscenes by TMS, who made the animated series, and they are unique to the Sega CD game.
Okay.
And they are acted. They are everything. So it's like getting a free episode between this horrible game.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Do those cutscenes are available on video online?
YouTube, yeah. You can watch the whole thing in like 20 minutes.
I can get that free content without actually going through.
That's why it's a dishonorable mention, friend.
Okay.
We also have Batman Forever on the Super Nintendo, which is a side-scrolling game that...
I remember this.
Yeah, it looked like Mortal Kombat with the digitized sprites. Batman walked like this for some reason. It's really strange.
Yeah, there's so much wrongness associated with Batman Forever, and the games did not escape it.
And then finally, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, which is my favorite Batman movie of all time.
Right, that's a great movie.
It's amazing. I cried Poor little Robin.
Yeah.
This was a horrible brawler on the N64 and PS1. It is garbage. I think EGM scored it like a 1 out of 10.
Wow. Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, again, Batman, yes, he does get in there and beat the crap out of the bad guys, but that's only one aspect of it. If you're just making it that, then no.
Yeah, I love Batman games, and one of the reasons we want to talk about all these great Batman games is because somehow Batman seemed to circumvent the curse of like superhero games.
Yeah.
There's so many bad ones. But upon doing some research, I found that there are just as many bad Batman games out there as good ones. So he's not escaped it unscathed.
Well, well, he can escape it because, the problem with like a Superman game is, well, Superman's invulnerable, has all these powers. How can you make a convincing threat? Well, you can't. But Batman...
Make him fly through rings in a foggy city on the N64. Thanks, Titus. You fucked up.
Yeah, well, again, I can't blame too many people because it's an impossible. It's like writers who are writing the comics. How do you create situations that are perilous for Superman? It's tough. But Batman is what?
Video games.
Video games.
Because video games.
Because video games. Yeah.
For Gaming Without Parole, my name's Brian Paul.
My name's Dezrah.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.